it makes me wonder if Treehouse Eyes is going to pivot a little bit to open up to a practice that they're not even considering orthokeratology. The biggest obstacle I'm seeing towards these new technologies, especially the glasses, we've got the problem with compliance. You got a problem with the average ECP who doesn't really know anything about myopia, who's undercharging and undervaluing myopia by being like, well, here's some spectacles. Try those, right?
Right.
It makes me wonder if it's going to open up these two new separate categories, or one category is going to emerge. You have your orthokeratologists, you have your diehard myopia folks who are really invested in it. And then you have everybody else. And I'm hoping that this group comes into the spotlight of being like, well, we do atropine, we do the spectacles, we do all of these other things. Is Treehouse Eyes, is that on their radar to like identify which docs that this vector of myopia will work best for? Like, you know, that was one of my biggest challenges at J&J is like, I'd cold call a practice. You know, I'd be in an area because I would sell all over the country. And I'd be like, okay, who does myopia management here? I'd get in a day early. I'd start going on to doctors' practices. They say they do it. They say they do it. They say they do it. And then I would just roll up, walk into the office and be like, I hear you guys do myopia management. You could tell really fast that they don't. It's just buzzwords. They're just jumping on that bandwagon the best they can, which seems confusing to me. So is Treehouse Eyes equipped to handle that moving into the future? Because I imagine this is part of your role as a strategic advisor, you know, with these new technologies coming into play. So are they going to expand are y'all going to expand what you're doing? Or, you know, what is the official position on that, if you don't mind me asking?
So there is obviously expansion underway. Why do I say that? Because instead of just having one product in the portfolio, there's now 3, right? And they are tailored to different types of optometrists to meet them where they are, right? Because some people, I don't know anything about it. I don't know how, you know, I want some assurance that when a patient presents, I have a really good idea of what therapy to recommend and what procedure to recommend. To your point, I don't know how to set up my practice so that when Matthew walks through the door and says, I heard you've done myopia management. Absolutely. Let me have you talk to Jaime. And Jaime will walk you all the way through it, just like an orthodontic practice is set up. Right. This is not brand new creating the wheel, right? These are proven commercial methods to do this and honed from hundreds of practices across the country, right? That have done this. And, you know, and from the power practice, Gary Goodwin, as one of the co-founders of Treehouse, he knows exactly how to set up a practice to get it running. So, and then of course you've got the from soup to nuts. One of the things that any organization has when they're faced with a tremendous opportunity, Stellest is absolutely a game changer, I believe. If it grows the category like I think it should and can, is that more opportunity abounds. Remember, I talked about 40,000 points out there. So in any particular analysis of that, 16% of the bell curve is the really front forward exposed. So when I was at Specialty Eye Care, those were my orthokeratologists. Those were the people who would use more than one therapy to approach a patient, right? And we would survey them. I would talk to them. We knew who they were because they're 6,000. And you know from Seth Godin, if you have 1,000 raving fans, you have a really good business, right? And I could tell you that with 6,000 people out there, that is plenty fertile ground. But what I think Stellest and what I liked about my site is that it goes to the next third. So now you're in the early majority, right? Now, why is this important? And I'll bring it back to Treehouse in a moment. When you are in the early majority, a characteristic of that is you want proof that this works. You don't want complication. You don't want hassle. You want proof, right? And the FDA authorization for Stellest and the FDA indication for my site, it gives you proof across 2 separate therapies. And then if Signexis gets their FDA indication, then now you've got 3, right? So now you've got multiple therapy options for an optometrist who's a clinician. So now that's proof. FDA tells you that efficacy and safety, right? So that's usually what's set. And then of course you can really dig into papers and you compare and contrast, and all the reps will be in different ones that says, well, mine's better than that one because of this, that, and the other. And that's a lot of fun. But fundamentally, you have two FDA authorized or indicated products right now. And that appeals to half the population, half, which gives the opportunity for Treehouse to expand their reach and who they talk to and how they talk to them. When you have multiple products in your portfolio, you speak to the people that it would benefit the most. And now you have 20,000 people who could benefit from each of these offerings. And in today's digital age, it's a lot easier to cover a lot of ground than it was even 10 years ago.
Right.
And you would literally have 200 salespeople on the ground. You don't need that much anymore. That will. So that's where it comes full circle.
If you're interested in getting the rest of the episode, consider becoming a paid supporter of the Myopia Mindset. In addition to an extended version of this episode and every other episode that we do, you'll also get access to exclusive monthly bonus episodes of the Myopia Mindset. And I know you're interested. You've made it this far. You can do so on our Substack, myopiamindset.substack.com. I'll see you at the next one.